Don't join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? Those who are here for the first time, what brings you here? Now that you got your hand in the air, sorry. Yeah. Your friends? Yeah. Well, you know who to blame if you have a terrible time, so yeah, welcome. Another hand I saw somewhere.
Meditation.
Say again?
Meditation.
What do you think would expand on that? You just wanted to check out meditation and found here, or?
Yeah, found here, like, for a pure spirit.
Yeah, a pure spirit.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to get that here? Led by me? I'd come back a different night, I can tell you that right now. What do you think meditation is?
Mostly something to calm the soul, calm the spirit.
Yeah. Anyone in here calm? Still want to stay? Giving you a chance to run. I'll rephrase the question. Anyone in here want to be calm? So you got that to look forward to. You know, a lot of these people have been at it a long time. It's it's a difficult thing to be calm. You know? Shouldn't be that difficult, but it is. It's really difficult to stay calm. Requires a lot of work, a lot of practice, a lot of effort. It's not easy, especially if you've not been calm most of your life, which is what leads to many people to a place like this. It takes practice, and being calm is not something that most people practice too often. Spend all day long in kind of these environments and these worlds and these communities and these places and these traffic and, like freeway traffic. And it's just not very conducive to being calm. So places like this are created to help you find a sense of calm. But the challenge is, you're in here how often? 1 hour, once a week, maybe twice a week, Some of you, maybe you come a little bit more often. But the practice is, how do we take that feeling that you get when you come to a place like this, and it doesn't matter, it could be here, any Buddhist temple, any yoga studio, any spiritual place. How do you take that feeling and bring it out into the world? Because that's really what matters. It doesn't matter how calm you are here. I mean, I appreciate y'all being calm here. It makes it a lot easier. Not throwing shit at me or anything like that. But, out there, the world is not calm. And as soon as you leave here, you go back into the madness. And so the practice is to figure out how to bring that sense of calmness and clarity that hopefully you cultivate in a meditation way as one way to cultivate that and bring that into every area of your life. So then it doesn't matter what's going on out there, because the world out there is never going to slow down. It's never going to go how you want it to. It's always going to be chaotic, hectic mess, always. Challenges you have with family, always going to be there. Challenges you have with friends, always going to be there. Work, always going to be there. Kids that don't listen to you, always going to be there. These challenges are always going to be there. And the question is, how do you respond? And so one reason we practice seated meditation, or standing or walking, however you practice it, is to be able to know what it's like to actually feel calm for even just a few moments. And then you begin to replicate that in other areas of your life. So, but it takes practice, and, appreciate you showing up and trying it. So with that, I think we'll start with the meditation. For those who are joining virtually, glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. Feel free to say hello as you are. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. So a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. Right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, like I said. And this practice and learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you want to be comfortable. If you want a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated. Also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees or on the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means you need to move. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything from this practice. We're just going to sit and breathe. We'll be done by about midnight. Starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting, breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. The most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. Most of you won't even make it out of this temple before you're disturbed. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. Only thing that fixes that is you making changes in your life. Meditation helps you become aware of your mind, your thoughts, your words, your actions, which create your crazy, hectic, stressed out life. This practice is direct perception into the present moment, which is very often what so many people are afraid to be with, the present moment, which is your entire life's experiences that have led you to this moment. And yet for some reason, so many people resist that, try to fight against it, try to deny it, try to change it. You can't change anything that's happened in the past, regardless of how much you might want to. And if you want to determine what's going to happen in the future, take care of your thoughts and your words and your actions right now. This is what the Buddha taught very clearly. This is karma. The word karma means action. It's not what you get, it's what you bring into the world. Generate karma 3 ways: body, speech, mind, thoughts, words, and actions. Everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do creates your world around you. So the practice, again, is to be mindful of your thoughts and of your words and of your actions. And that never changes. It's the same thing day in and day out. And that alone is very difficult for people. I think it was, especially for those of you here on Saturday, and I'll leave names out to protect the innocent or the guilty at this point. And this individual had asked a question last week. I know many of you probably heard this. And their question was, what do they do to, I don't know, feel better? Whatever the question was about. Something was wrong and they wanted to feel better. And I said, spend every day an hour and go help people. Find gratitude and go help people. So 5 days later, the same person showed up and said, okay, I did that for 5 days and it really helped. Now what? And I can't even drive home, And this individual had been around a few years, so, I didn't have to hold back in my response. But I can't even drive home the fact of just how repetitive this practice is. It can get boring. It can get annoying because we're so used to thinking like, okay, what's next? And Buddhist practice is really simple. It's just the same thing over and over and over again in various ways. As they say in Buddhism, the Buddha taught the same thing 84,000 different ways. But he taught the exact same thing 84,000 different ways. Meaning there, as an example, 84,000 different types of people. So we all are going to respond to these teachings differently. And some will resonate with us and some will not. But all of them are the same. They're all geared towards figuring out our awareness of what causes our suffering and the changes we have to make to remove or decrease our suffering. That's it. So simple. Become aware of why you suffer and make change. Which is so easy because I know how much everybody in here loves to change. And I'm sure all of your suffering has nothing to do with you and it's all someone else's fault. So, that makes it easier also. But to me, it's very liberating to know that you have absolute control over your own happiness and your own misery. If that was contingent upon somebody else or something else or somewhere else, that would suck. Because then you'd spend your entire life running, chasing, looking, trying to find that person, place, or thing that's going to bring you that sense of happiness or take away that sense of misery that you have. And knowing that all of your happiness, all of your joy, and all of your misery, you're in control of that. So I see that as good news. I didn't used to see that as good news. I used to think that sucked because, it was just easier to blame everybody else for things that were wrong. But once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction, life gets simpler. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting and breathing and being kind. That's all. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello. If you have any questions, you can put them on the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time for questions.
So I notice when I'm here, it's like relatively easy, whatever that means for me to meditate. And I find myself feeling really resistant to just sitting for even like 2-3 minutes when I'm at my house and I have a meditation pillow and all the things. And like, I don't know, I'm just curious what you have to say about that because I am trying to get into more of a consistent practice with myself.
For sure. Is your meditation pillow the right color? I would start there. No, but seriously, and just to paraphrase your question, for those virtually didn't hear it, is that you shared that when you're here, you find it relatively easy, with like air quotes, to meditate when you're here. But at home, you have a hard time, even just 2-3 minutes, having your own meditation cushion. It's still more challenging and harder at home. 100%. I hear that so frequently. That doesn't solve your problem. I just want to point that out. And there's, I think, even just psychologically, a number of reasons why. Just the idea, and again, this won't really help you yet, but just to kind of put some context around it, especially to those who might be brand new. The idea of going somewhere, getting yourself physically, mentally, emotionally prepared to go to a space to meditate. You are preparing for that. And then you're stepping into a place where you, for the most part, don't have any control over anything in this place, right? I mean, that could be good, that could be scary, it just kind of depends, but you're not responsible for anything here. You're not in control of anything here. If a phone were to ring, which it actually did, which was nice because it just woke people up, it's not your phone to answer. If somebody knocks on the front door, it's not your responsibility to go answer the door. Your computer, although your phone's probably on you, but your computer is not 6 feet from you. The fridge is not right there. What else are you going to do here? You know what I mean? Like, you are preparing yourself to just sit down and breathe. So you've created that condition in your head that that's what you're doing when you're going to come here. So much of what you're describing, which is it's relatively easier when you're here, is because of all of those reasons. You've set everything down. You've given yourself, to me, the greatest gift. The Buddha talked about the greatest gift is the gift of the Dharma, which is the teachings and the practice. You've given yourself the gift of the opportunity to sit, which is why it's so important that we keep sitting. Again, I don't care if it's here or wherever it is, but just keep sitting. So, again, that doesn't help you at all yet, but I also just want to point out that that's part of why. Then at home, it's all your stuff. All your things, all your to-do lists, all your laundry, all your kitchen, your food, your phone, your computer, your animals, whatever. Your whole world is there. It's chaos, even if you love it, So the practice, the question you're really after is like, okay, well, how do I carry that into my own space? And the only real answer for that is practice and time. You have a cushion, a pillow, a place to sit. That's perfect. That's a start. Do you sit in the same place every day, even if it's just 2 minutes and you're like, all right, I'm done. Can't do this. Is it in the same space every day? Okay. Do you have is it facing a wall or a candle or a flower or a picture or something? Think about creating the space. I remember years ago when Buddha was over in the college area, we'd have these college kids come in and they would literally create a little shrine with a shoebox, and they sat on their skateboard with a pile of books. So you don't need much, but if you create a sacred space, even in a corner, begin to create that space where you're kind of stepping out of the rest of the environment in your house and into your sacred space, which could be nothing more than a 3x3 square. Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess. And then when you sit, start out 3 minutes every day for a week or 2 weeks. And then do 4 minutes. Same thing for a week or 2 weeks. And then do 5 minutes. And stop right there. Do 5 minutes every day for 6 months. You're less likely to get up and go somewhere here. If we sat here literally till midnight, many of you might actually still be sitting here. But at home, it hits 6 minutes, and you're like, oh God, I got to do something now. Something in your house needs you to do something. Here, nobody needs you to do anything. So begin to cultivate the practice of 5 minutes. That's it. If the house was on fire, you still probably will be okay for 5 minutes. Actually not, don't listen to that. But 5 minutes, there's a fire, go. Especially for the new guy. I don't want you to think that, I went to this meditation and they told me to sit still if there's a fire. But yeah, a 3 to 5 minute practice for the next 6 months at home in a little corner space that is sacred, that you feel safe. That's another thing too, is for anyone else have a harder time doing this at home? Really? None of you? Bunch of liars. Thank you. Okay. It's about creating a safe space. We talk about this all the time, that for me, one of the most important things about creating a temple is it has to be a safe space. You have to feel comfortable. Even though you're silent for the most part during the meditation practice, you have to be silently vulnerable as well. And very often, even in our own home spaces, based on past traumas or experiences or conversations we had somewhere, we don't really feel that safe there. So create a safe corner. Yeah. Does that help at all? I rambled a lot, but yeah.
Does it matter if it's in the morning or in the evening?
What matters is that you do it. It doesn't necessarily matter morning or evening. I'm not a big fan of thinking that one is better than the other. Practically, for many people, if you don't have a daily habit, and I really mean this, just 5 minutes every day. If you don't have a daily habit of 5 minutes, I always suggest first thing in the morning, wake up, brush your teeth, splash water in your face, drink your coffee, whatever you got to do, and then just sit down for 5 minutes. Because once your day gets going and life starts and you're hectic and then at nighttime you're exhausted, the reality is you're just done. So I encourage people to try it first thing in the morning. Then at noontime, 2 o'clock, step outside, do it for another 5 minutes. Nighttime, you're exhausted, you can't sleep, your mind's racing. Anyone here have trouble sleeping? Right? Again, liars, 2 of you, thank you. So if you have trouble sleeping, do this before you go to sleep. I'm not a fan of lying down meditation unless you have physical ailments or just any sort of pain or things like that. But at nighttime, if you have trouble sleeping, do it laying down. Close your eyes. It's like counting sheep. Breath in, breath out, count 1. Breath in, breath out, count 2, etc. You can use it as a practice to help you fall asleep at nighttime if you have trouble sleeping. So it just depends on kind of where you can get it in. But I do think creating discipline is what's more important. If it's 3 in the afternoon, then say every day at 3 o'clock I'm going to do it. So a big part of it is the discipline and routine, ritual behind it. You don't need much. What else?
So I've meant to ask this a long time, but my daughter is not here, so I cannot.
We can talk about her now, too.
Yeah, no. So, and I've had Buddhism in my life for a long time, so I'm very lucky. So not that I'm getting to a point where it's, far from it, but I am sure, 99.999% sure that my daughter is the reincarnation of my grandmother.
Okay.
And again, it's like, when she was younger, with my mom, we always talk about it. But it's for me, I get amused. And again, I'm like, I've never decided to go for it and find out. But lately, she's doing so much things. And it's not just physical, or it's just the energy. I don't know. I can't even explain what it is. But I kind of like, I'm a little bit curious that, is it something that I should even talk to her about or and what to do? Yeah.
So you want me to tell you she's the reincarnation?
No!
Because I can answer that for you.
I said 99% sure. I'm not 100% sure.
So here's the thing. To put it into context for those who are new to Buddhism or have never heard this stuff before we get to that specifically, at the time of the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, 500 years before Christ, for the most part, everybody at that time believed in, whether you call it reincarnation, whether you call it rebirth, whether you call it continuation of consciousness. That was just what people believed. If you went up to somebody at that time, again, 500 years before Christ, in India, and you said, hey, you have one life and then you're going to heaven or hell, they would have thought you were crazy. That would have been the most ridiculous sounding thing. Now fast forward to today, and you tell people that you think, You've waited a long time. We've known you a long time. And you've had your daughter a long time.
Wait, so that's?
My point is, if you go up to most people today and you start saying, I think my daughter is the reincarnation of, was it your grandmother? Most people are going to think you're what?
Yeah, crazy. That's why I don't talk about it. And
I understand.
Almost in front of you. I'm like,
yeah, do I really want to sound crazy, right? There's somebody in here right now that thinks you're crazy.
No.
At least one person. And that's okay, right?
Oh, it's okay.
But before I get to specifics on that, it is important to understand that when the Buddha taught, he was teaching to an audience of people that believed in I look at that as a continuation of consciousness. That when the physical body died, they called it Alaya Vijnana, storehouse consciousness. That collection of karma, that collection of consciousness continues on. That's what everybody believed. It wasn't strange. It wasn't weird. You weren't crazy for thinking that. You were crazy then if you thought that you had one life and then you're going to heaven or hell. That would have made you crazy. Imagine sitting in a room back then and somebody getting the courage to ask the question and say, you know what, when I die, I think I'm going to end up going to heaven or hell. They would have looked at you like you were absolutely nuts. Different time. So all of the Buddhist teachings were coming at a time where people realized, believed, and knew they were going to be reborn. There was going to be a continuation of the consciousness. Now, to your question specifically, this is where it gets a little tricky because different cultures of Buddhism view it differently. Tibetans are very big on determining the literal reincarnation of someone, like in your example. So the Dalai Lama right now, the 14th Dalai Lama, they say he is the literal reincarnation. I forget what numbers, I'm not even going to put it, but say the 9th as an example, right? They believe that he is the reincarnation of a previous Lama, right? Other schools of Buddhism, and really Tibetan Buddhism is what I've studied and know the least about, but other schools of Buddhism, specifically where I practiced and learned, they believe in the continuation of consciousness, and that the mistake, the monastery, there was a monk who taught life and death studies. And he said, the mistake us humans make is that we think this is my one life, and that I had a past life, and that I'm going to have a future life. He said, the mistake we're making is that we think that these lives are separate. It's just one endless continuation. That this consciousness comes together in physical form. My body will die, consciousness will continue on in a rebirth. My suggestion for learning more is I would find and I could tell you a place to go, but I would find a Tibetan Lama that, isn't going to charge you $500 to give you some input, because a real one wouldn't. It's just my way of saying make sure you go to somebody that, of proper training and kind of knowledge to talk to about that. And again, for those who might be new, I'm not saying you're going to go to this Lama, I know you know this, but you're not going to go to this Lama and be like, yo, can you confirm this or not? Right? But to give you more insight into the literal process of reincarnation, I think that the Tibetan school is it was a play years ago called, I forget the name of it, but we had a little interfaith panel after I was on. I think it was called like the youngest child or something. And it was like these two lamas show up at some Midwestern home, like Iowa or something. And there's this little boy, and they show up and they want to take the boy because they're convinced this like 8-year-old boy is the reincarnation of their great Lama. So, find a Tibetan Lama that can share insight with that. Yeah. What else?
This is there's like a little sculpture.
You're just fascinated with these shrines. Do you even listen to anything I say, or you just sit here and stare at all this stuff? Go ahead, sorry.
The little one, like right to the left of the...
Holding the staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that one?
That Prashivali, the bronze one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that?
You ever been to a Thai forest temple?
Yeah.
So Metaphors Monastery up in Escondido, beautiful temple. I'd highly recommend going there. You'll see large ones in Prashivali. Prashivali was, so at the time of the Buddha, there is, one example is Anathapindika. There's a lot of the teachings at Anathapindika Grove. And Anathapindika were, and for all of Buddhism historically, the wealthy merchants, the wealthy class, the royalty that supported everything. Right? Without the land, the Buddha would have nowhere to be and to teach and to share. So Prashivali was considered one of the wealthy folks that supported the Sangha. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else while you're looking up there?
Maybe the other little one. Like
The other side with the other staff, which is the same one that's in the doorway over there. You've noticed that when you walk in, the shoe rack's on your right. You keep going right outside the library door to the left. There's a stone one about yay big. His name is Kashidi Garba, or in Japanese, Jizo. He is a bodhisattva, an enlightened being, that his vow was to be reborn, going back to your question, into the hell realms. right? So even though I said no heaven, no hell, Indian culture, Vedic philosophy, they believed there were realms that you could be reborn into, definitely. And so for me, again, without getting into that, I look at the realms of rebirth like every day. You ever had a day where you're in a really good, happy mood?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that time like 17 years ago? Yeah. And then you ever had a day where you just feel like hell? Yeah. So like the same day, noon, everything's great. By 4 o'clock, you're just like, you're done. Right? So you've gone through these different realms mentally and emotionally in like a 4-hour period or an hour period.
Yeah.
So when I think of like, in Buddhism, you don't have to believe in rebirth. It's not even, it doesn't matter. I think of every moment, every day as a rebirth. And so each moment I have an opportunity to live mentally and emotionally in heaven or mentally and emotionally in hell. In any realm in between there, right? But Ksitigarbha, his vow was to be reborn life after life into the hell realms to share the Dharma, to be able to make sure that everybody came into a human realm to hear the teachings of the Dharma. And he carries a staff, which would, with the kind of rings hanging on it, which would make noise as he walked, and a pearl to light up the room so any kind of creatures that were on the ground would see him coming. Yeah.
The realms of the
Oh, and that, yeah. What about him?
the realms of the afterlife, is that the same thing as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or is it separate? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you have the human realm, the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, the Sura, the godly realm, Buddha realm.
It's different than the Bardo states. It's
Different than Bardo stages, yes.
the realms.
Yeah.
I guess it's like they correspond to colors, right? There's like
They're all red.
all red.
All red. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm definitely not going to teach on the Bardo stages, talk on it, other than, it's probably there.
Right.
Yeah. The Bardo is, again, Tibetan specific. They say that there's, and actually even other schools of Buddhism as well, that the rebirth occurs at some time on the 7th day of 49 days. So like when the body, when we die, they'll chant, transfer merit, etc. for 49 days. Because the belief is that at some point during those 49 days, then there is a continuation. Yeah. Cultural Buddhism and all stuff that we really just don't get into much here.
What was the temple that you mentioned?
It's called Shifang Temple, HSI-FANG. In fact, tomorrow night, Venerable Miaozang, who's the abbess, the head of Shifang Temple, she'll be our guest speaker tomorrow night. She's incredible, but it's the master in 1927. He was born mainland China, moved to Taiwan in 1949. He just passed within the last maybe 2 years ago now. But he brought Buddhism into Taiwan in 1949, and I started there in 2003. It's a Taiwanese-based temple, incredible, and she's just the sweetest person. So she'll be here. I would announce it at the end, but she'll be here tomorrow night at 7. Yeah. And it's a mixture of what's called Pure Land in Buddhism. It's a Pure Land school of Buddhism, where the belief is that you're reborn into Amitabha's Pure Land, where there is no suffering. And Chan, which is the Chinese word for Zen. So it's a mixture of Pure Land and Chan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism.
And it's open to the public?
Yes, it's open to the public. There'll be different times that you would go, kind of like here, really, that there's things going on at different times. But always recommend checking it out. I think Saturday, Sunday morning, we can clarify tomorrow night with Venerable Miaozang, but they'll do like the chanting services, which are really cool. It's all in Mandarin. You have no idea what's being said. You'll bow, you'll chant, some elder Taiwanese lady will tell you how to open your hands properly, because you're doing it wrong. Like, it's phenomenal. It's a great experience. It's really beautiful. And for me, it's the practice that I love, It's very different when you go to what I call cultural temples because, for the most part, even though now they try to cater towards local people, Western folks who didn't grow up in Buddhist culture, they're not there like asking questions about how to fix their life. No offense to all of us who've been doing this for all these years, right? They're there to bow, to chant, meaning recite the sutras, and to meditate. That's it. Western folks still treat Buddhism as therapy. That's because half of you came here from your therapist's recommendation. So I'm not knocking that aspect of it. That's fine, right? I mean, the Buddha would have been thrilled, I'm sure, that all these people are showing up to Buddhism because their therapist wanted them to be here. I think that's great. But ultimately, Buddhist practice is very different from therapy. Because the Buddha taught there is no self. The self that you think is so destroyed and ruined and shattered and broken and needs fixing, the Buddha said that self is an illusion. So instead of trying to fix and heal all your problems and all your traumas and all your stuff, or at least in addition to that, I'll say, recognize that all of that stuff is just an illusion. It's your experience. It happened. It was painful. It was disgusting. It was horrible. It was not good. But it's very different from therapy. And I don't suggest, you give up one for the other. I think they complement each other very well. But it's a very different approach. Kind of the common example is, if there is no self, then who is suffering? But people spend their entire lives trying to fix themselves because everybody told them that there's something wrong with them. And then you pay people a lot of money to make sure that they reinforce that there's something wrong with you and that there's something that needs to be fixed. And then you spend your whole life trying to fix something where the Buddha says there's no one to fix. So who are you trying to fix? That person that you're trying to fix doesn't exist in the way that you think they exist. It's just the story that you've been telling yourself over and over and over about yourself, that you're not good enough, and you're not this enough, and you're not that enough. That's the person you're trying to fix. That person is an illusion. That person is just a story in your head about who you think you are, and who you think others think you are. If that made sense. So, what else? Yeah, and then back, go ahead.
Would you say that self-love is a lie?
Self-love is a lie? No.
Like if you're not supposed to, like,
I didn't say you're not supposed to do anything.
Okay.
Keep going. No, you're good.
Do you think it's good to love yourself?
Yes. Now you're confused because I sound like I'm contradicting everything I just said. Right? Yeah, no, you can say yes. You can say, Jeff, you're just confusing me. Right? I'm trying to confuse you. I want you to be confused because from confusion can become clarity. This idea of non-self in Buddhist teachings is really important, but also very difficult when you first hear it. Because if we say non-self, it makes it sound as if you're not here, or that you're not real. And when I say you're an illusion, it makes it sound like it's just some facade, right? That's not there. You are here. What's your name?
Seth.
Seth. Seth, you are there. But do you have 10 people in your life that know you?
Yes.
So if I ask all of them to describe Seth, are they all going to say the exact same thing about you? They're all going to say something completely different.
Probably completely different.
Completely different. And if I ask Seth to describe Seth to me, what is Seth going to say? Is it going to be the same thing as the other 10 people said? No. You've had your whole life's experiences. Those were real experiences. They created everything in your life to this moment. But this idea of non-self is that you are here. You, Seth, are here. Right? If I came up and I punched you, it might hurt. If I came up and I gave you a hug, it might feel good. Right? So these experiences are happening. This idea of non-self is to understand that you are completely different from how you perceive yourself to be. The story that you've told yourself. Do you have a story in your head about yourself and how you think about yourself? And how long have you been telling that story?
My whole life.
Your whole life. Is it real? Or is it just your story?
Might just be my story.
It might be. Because everybody has a different story about Seth. So which one is real? Non-self is understanding that as long as you're stuck in that story, you're not actually experiencing life. You're experiencing life through the story you've told yourself. And most people who end up in this practice, including myself, have not been telling themselves a good story about themselves their whole life. Because people who tell themselves good stories, such as I'm a wonderful person, I'm a kind person, I love myself, I'm happy, I'm genuine, I'm honest, I'm sincere. If you tell yourself all those things, you don't end up here on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. You don't end up sitting here. Does that make sense? So that's what non-self is about. To put it into the language that we are familiar with, to say self-love, absolutely love yourself. Dogen, the great Zen master, would say you must get to know yourself before you can get rid of the self. So we can't just pretend that we're not here. When I say it's an illusion, it just means we're different from how we perceive ourselves to be. You ever had something you thought you were so convinced you were right, and then one day you're like, oh shit, I was wrong. Right? So that's your whole life, is just those experiences. Our mind kind of confuses us. And then we think we know what's right or wrong or good or bad. So, yeah, here and then we'll wrap up. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're basically saying that give it time and give it that awareness to truly genuinely get to know ourselves and who we are, which is like a self connection, a soul connection to yourself.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would, I don't want to say caution, but so spend time doing everything you just talked about, paying attention, listening to ourselves. But the idea about getting to know ourselves, this is where it's a little tricky, because we need to get to, as I said, the Dogen, get to know yourself before you can get rid of the self. The challenge with getting to know yourself is then it's not as if you're done. Right? So it's not as if you get to know yourself and then you say, okay, that's it, and then you close the book.
But we're always evolving and changing.
Correct.
So it's a constant building relationship with itself, of evolving.
Correct. Until the idea of needing to build a relationship with yourself falls away. Because there is no self. Who is that self that you're building a relationship with? You're constantly changing, every moment. So it's just helping us understand that there's not like this permanence, and this is the Buddhist teachings, it's kind of too late to get into this now, but this is the Buddhist teachings on impermanence. Like we think that there's this permanent self.
So tomorrow we might be completely different. And
No. Tomorrow will be completely different.
So it's just living in the present. Basically.
Correct.
So every day is like a new fresh breath of fresh air.
Every day, every moment is a breath of fresh air. Every moment is a new experience. Not even just tomorrow. Again, we think like we had today sucked, I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Well, if your day sucked today, you're not done yet. The next 30 minutes of your day could be good. But we're so wrapped up in our stories that we say, well, today was miserable, I'm going to start over. And it's the end of the year. Everyone's like, I can't wait for the new year. 2025 is going to be so different. So we tell these stories, like 2024 sucked, so next year is going to be all, each moment.
So it's the art of detachment from the past and the future.
Yes, non-attachment. So the last comment, or the last thing you said was the art of detachment from past and future. So in Buddhism we talk about non-attachment, where yes, detachment is like a cutting off, but we're not attaching to the past. The past happened, it occurred. And we're not attaching to the future because it's not even here yet, we don't know what's coming. But back to your earlier comment, yes, the practice is, can we just live in the present moment and what you said, experience present moment without having to identify that present moment as like myself. Just experience each moment. If you eat pizza, just eat pizza. Just experience eating pizza. That's it. So simple. Last one and back and we'll close.
I just got back from here in Southeast Asia. I think Chuck was in Da Nang, Vietnam. There's like this 200-foot wide Lady Buddha.
Yeah.
How does Lady Buddha play to Buddhism?
So she's not a Buddha. She is Kuan Yin. She's the same one that's sitting behind me here in the middle. Her name means hearer of the world's cries. Kuan Yin, in Vietnam, they would say Quan Japanese, Kanon. So each culture will say her name differently. And she is known as the compassion body of the Buddhist teachings. You have wisdom and compassion are the two wings of Buddhism. Manjushri is over here, represents wisdom, and this represents compassion. She hears all the suffering in the world, pours out compassion to heal, often seen holding a vase or pouring out a vase. Depending upon which one you're talking about, she might have been holding a vase, I'm not sure. But you'll see them all over there. You also see her very differently in the back corner there behind you, up on the wall there. That's a 1,000-armed Kuan Yin. The story is that her head and body exploded, so the Buddha came in and gave her 1,000 arms and 11 heads. Because if you try to heal people, having more to heal with would be great. This is a four-arm. The second one on the wall here is called Chen Re Zig. It's a four-armed Tibetan version, just like the one in the back. It's 1,000-armed. So she plays into Buddhism at the heart of it. She is the heart of Buddhism. Compassion. Endless, endless compassion. For all beings, all time, all space, all directions. Not just those you know and love, but those you don't know and those you don't love. And not to completely confuse you at the end of the night, Seth, where must you start having compassion the most? Yourself. That doesn't exist. So close on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. All right, before y'all head out, our Dharma Bum host Anna has a few announcements. And over the next few weeks, really starting the new year, we're going to look for one more host on Tuesday night. So if you want the power of being able to open the temple at 6:30 and close it when we're all done and do what Anna's about to do, we need one of you. So let me know.
Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, Anna. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Anna.